When you think of World War II, what images appear in your mind? Most people, when they think of World War II, the first images that come to their mind are of the Holocaust, of the Jews, and in piles of dead bodies of the Jews, and trains taking them away to death camps, as if that has something to do with World War II. It doesn't. Zero, nada, zilch. Okay. We did not get involved in World War II for any reason having to do with the Holocaust. We didn't give one little damn about the Holocaust. We knew it was happening. Time magazine actually made Hitler Man of the Year. Okay. And they laid out the Holocaust, what was happening, and his eradication, ethnic cleansing, and massacre of the Jews. And we didn't care. We didn't then. We never have. We don't now. Okay. Now, there's been the ongoing debate forever of isolationism versus being the world's policeman, and what is our responsibility around the world. Should we be the world's policeman? Can we be? Must we be? Or should we focus more on our own problems and let the world take care of itself? And all these people that have been fighting over land, over sand, and oil, and whose God is the best, we should let them work out, because they haven't seemed to been able to do so, and aren't going to be able to do so with our intervention. And it's really not our business. We need to focus on ourselves. And that's an argument. There's some reasonable arguments that say that, and I hold to some of that myself, that we really need to focus on ourselves, and let people, and intractable people that won't find a way to get along, that they need to work it out. And even if it means they're killing a lot of each other, well, sorry, but we have to take care of ourselves. And some will just straight out say, I don't care. I don't care what happens on the side of the planet. And, that's a position. And again, there's cogent arguments for it. And I agree in many cases. And I don't have a problem with that at all, really. What I have a problem with is that while saying we can't be the world's policeman and straight out saying I don't care, we then say, oh, but we have been the world's policeman, and we have been, we have rescued these poor victims around the world. When the fact is, we haven't. We haven't been the world's policeman. We haven't cared, and we haven't rescued people, and we didn't even liberate the death camps in Germany. Okay? And I cannot stand to hear us congratulate ourselves on how great we are, what a good and moral and great people we are, because we did all these great things. Now, we have intervened around the world, but invariably it has been for our benefit. Okay? We built the canal through Panama, not to save the world. It was for our benefit. We're over in Kuwait right now, keeping those shipping lanes open for our benefit. Okay? And we did not, in World War II, liberate the Jews or do any good thing for the Jews. Okay? We went over there and fought with our allies. Okay? We stayed out of the war for a while, and they were begging us to come and help, and we didn't want to expend our blood and treasure over there. But we were giving them, supplying them with weapons and such for their war efforts. And Germany got sick of that and said, hey, you're in the war, okay? You're supplying our enemies. You're in the war, so therefore we're at war with you. And we went over there. On the other side, Japan. We went over there, and they attacked us, and there were reasons they did it as well. So, but we focused even then on our own reasons. Okay, so in World War II, we did not liberate the death camps. Okay, we fought our way through Germany and killed all of the Germans and took over and rescued Europe because of our trade impacts and so forth, and they were our allies, not to help any group of people that were being obliterated from the planet. Okay, during the war, there were. It's important to understand that we didn't like those stinking Jews any more than they did. Okay, they were hated around the world, and Germany was not the only place they were being massacred. It was happening all over Europe. Okay, there were pogroms, which is the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Jews, was happening throughout Russia and Ukraine, and it's happened throughout the world. And we were taking in very small numbers of those stinking Jews. And before, during, and after the Holocaust, even when we knew what was happening, we weren't taking any more. As a matter of fact, taking less of them than most others. Okay. So we hated him too. The final solution was Hitler's final solution. Okay, it wasn't his first choice. He didn't want to make the effort to exterminate the Jews. He just wanted them out of Germany and every country that he was taking over. Okay, he just wanted the Jews out. He wanted to blame them and wrote a whole book on it. Okay, that we pretty much agreed with. We agreed with all of that except for the whole exterminate them thing. Okay, but he was forced to exterminate him because he first was going to send him off to Israel, and the Grand Mufti came up and said, no, Islam's not going to allow that. If you want our help in the war, you can't send him here. And the U.S. was like, well, you can't send them here. And Britain and France was like, you can't send them stinking Jews here. So, okay, we weren't sending it. The reason he was resigned to finally the final solution of exterminating them was because nobody else would take them. Okay, because they were universally hated for having a country, for not having a country, for being rich, for being poor, for their religion, for being secular, for drinking the blood of children on their matzah balls, for you name it. Everyone hated the Jews, and nobody came to the rescue of the Jews. When they arrived, after fighting their way through each country, and they just happened across they didn't make any effort to go to the death camps and liberate them. As they trudged through the countries, they just, oh, look here, there's a bunch of Jews. And they liberated them, and they helped them out and did some nice things. But the war was over in 1945, okay? And there were about 1 million people left in the death camps and concentration camps. Those Jews and Gypsies and Catholics and various those that they wanted to round up and exterminate, Germans. And the UN, they couldn't go back to Germany because they just tried to exterminate them, so didn't feel safe there. And so the UN created a program where countries would come in and they would take a bunch of them back to their countries for cheap labor. It was a great program, and they did. They rounded up everybody that was left of the 1 million that were left in the death camps, concentration camps. They rounded them all up and took them to various places around the world. They took them all except the Jews. 250,000, 250,000 Jews were the last ones there. They were there for 2 more years because nobody would take them. And we wouldn't allow them to go to Israel. And we wouldn't allow them to, they wouldn't come here. They wouldn't come everywhere. So, no, we didn't liberate the Jews. We just happened to show up after in furtherance of the war. We opened the gates. Said, okay, you can go. There's nowhere to go. I said, where do you want to go? They asked him, said, where do you want to go? They said, well, to Israel, where we could be safe, in our country. And they're like, no, you can't go there. And they're like, I guess it's the ovens. That was a little quote. And it says, Israel or the ovens. Because we're not safe anywhere else. Everywhere else we've gone in the world, we've been killed and destroyed. So no, we didn't, we weren't the world's policemen there. We didn't go to save the Jews. We didn't liberate the Jews. We didn't give one little damn about the Jews. World War II was not about that. Okay? It's about fighting for our own interests and our allies' interests. Okay? So the good news, for those that are going on about, well, we can't be the world policeman and We don't care. And the countries just stopped supporting Israel and stopped caring. Good news, they don't. They never did. Well, what about all the money that we gave to the Jews? We've always supported Israel. Also untrue. Okay, until 1947, we never supported Israel one little bit. Okay, as a matter of fact, we were opposed to all things Israel, aside from the Jews who were here that we hated. We actually not only did not support them with weapons and money, we had embargoes that prohibited them from getting weapons. They got their weapons at the beginning from Russia, okay, via Czechoslovakia, okay, and they had to do it in secret because we were preventing them. Because we were as interested in them being strangled in the crib as the Mufti and Hitler and all the rest. We didn't care about them. Not only that, they were interfering with our true allies in the region, all of the Islamic countries, okay? And why? Well, because all we've ever cared about in the Middle East is trade routes and oil and gas, so the resources, okay? That's why we're there. That's why we care. And you know who has all of the oil and all of the resources and the trade routes? Oh, that's right. The Arabs, the Turks, the Muslims. Okay? We've always taken their side in all battles, in all the ongoing battle to exterminate Israel. Okay? Well, wait. We've given them more money than anybody. No, we gave Ukraine more than they in a couple years than we've given them in 100. Okay. Well, why did we give them money? Well, as Israel has been attacked repeatedly in several wars by virtually every surrounding Muslim country has come in to exterminate them, they have rather miraculously survived. Okay, it was close, but they fought in 1948, 51, 63, 67, the multiple wars where they've all ganged up to try to exterminate them. They have prevailed. Okay, even though we not only didn't give them weapons, but we prohibited them from. We had embargoes against them getting weapons. Okay, what happened in '67? Well, the UN was Britain had come down and asked for Israel to help them take the Suez Canal as Egypt was taking it, and Britain said, "Well, we dug the canal; it's ours." And Egypt's like, "Well, it's here; it's ours, and we're going to take it." And Britain went to Israel again, and said, "Hey, help us get this canal back." And they're stopping anything Israel from going through there. So Israel helped them take that back, and they actually they did that. And Britain provided certain promises that they again didn't keep for if they would help them. Okay, so then Britain had the UN had put in UN troops along the border. It says, look, don't be putting a bunch of troops on the border. It spooks Israel. They're going to have to defend themselves, so you don't do that. And then eventually Nasser kept saying, no, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to take them over eventually. And finally Nasser said, okay, you need to take the UN out of the way, UN troops out of the way. I'm going to amass and go in and destroy Israel. And he put 100,000 troops on the border, and the UN, rather than stay there and say, no, you can't do that, they went, okay. And they left. So Nasser had 100,000 troops on the border, and we didn't do anything. The world didn't do anything. And they said, we're coming in to destroy you. And then they made a pact at that time with, again, the surrounding countries that had invaded Israel several times before. Said, we all need to stand together for the destruction of Israel. They said, yeah, and Israel was like, oh, we better do something about this. So they went and had the 6-Day War. They did a really clever thing that they always do, and they went in and took out Egypt's supporting its Air Force on the ground in a day. And then Egypt lied and told Jordan, hey, we're winning. Time for you to join us in the war and take down Israel. And Jordan didn't want to do it, but they had a pact to do it. So they started coming in from the other side. Israel said, hey, Jordan got on the phone and says, hey, stop shooting at us. We don't want to fight with you. Our fight's with Egypt, not with you. And please don't get involved in the war. And Jordan's like, we're involved. We want to. You don't want to fight with us. We want to fight with you. And Israel's like, okay, suit yourself. and they went and took out Jordan's army, Air Force on the ground. They had no supporting Air Force, and Israel was able to go and take out their ground forces in days because they had no supporting Air Force, which they needed. So 6-day war, they took them out again. Okay. Now they took back the West Bank, they took back Gaza and the entire Sinai Peninsula in 6 days, and the Golan Heights of Syria, who were also attacking them, and they were prevailing against 5 different countries coming to Iraq. People come all around, and they were destroying them all. And the Muslims came to us and said, "Hey, get these guys to stop before we're completely destroyed." And so Kissinger got on a plane and went over there and flew right back and forth and negotiated a ceasefire and told them, "You got to stop." And Israel's like, we can't. These guys keep freaking trying to destroy us, and they're going to succeed eventually. And we need to take them out once and for all. And the Muslims were like, "Look, get them off our backs, or there will be no more oil for you and trade routes." Okay. So like, "Israel, you got to stop." And Israel's like, "Can't." And he says, "Okay, here's what we'll do. This is the first time. He said, we will give you a bunch of money and military assets to make you strong enough that they don't dare fuck with you again." Okay. And he was like, "Okay." So you understand that the money that they gave them was not to help them. It was a leash. It was to stop them from prevailing in that war, and it's the same thing they've done ever since. They've had the Yom Kippur War, same thing. They were prevailing, and we went in there and said, "Stop, or we're stopping your weapons and support." Okay? This happened again just recently. They went in and did the miraculous thing in against Hezbollah, took them out with their pagers and all the intrigue there, and then they went into Iran and took out their whole military in a very short time, and just destroyed their military assets in that country, so they couldn't continue to attack them. Then they went around and took out Hezbollah. They went down and took out and Hamas in the south and Hezbollah in the north, and all the people that have been attacking them. They went and attacked them back, and on the whole October 7th, they went in there to take out Hamas once and for all. Now, they were winning in Iran, okay, once and for all, getting this genocidal religious zealots in Iran to destroying their military. We went in and took out their nukes. And we said, "Look, we'll take out the nukes. You go in and take out as many missiles as you can, and some ground stuff in the meantime, but you have to stop." So we went in and did our forever war that took 37 minutes, took out the and Israel had been doing an amazing job of eliminating their strike forces, their ability to come across 2 countries and attack Israel. And then they took out Hezbollah and Hamas and all the different ways. This is a 7-front war that they were eliminating of threats against them. Okay. And we said, "Oh, you need to stop now." Like, no, we need to finish off their military capabilities so they don't come back 2 years from now. And we said, "No, you have to stop. We have to stop now. Trump needs a deal. Trump needs to have this success, this peace deal in the U.S. You have to stop it. If you don't, we're going to take your weapons. We're going to take your weapons away and other stuff, all our support. And then you'd be left with no weapons and no way to defend yourself next time. So stop." Okay. So again, it was a leash. Nobody wants this leash off them more than Israel. With that leash, they were forbidden to buy weapons from anyone else but us, and to create their own weapons. Okay, so they would be completely controlled by the leash that is that. And now people are saying, "Well, we should take that off." Okay, understand, that's fine. But understand what we're doing, taking off is the leash. Okay? And then see what Israel finally is able to do unfettered. okay, uncontrolled by us. It's a control mechanism. So when you say you want them to take it off, what you're stop supporting Israel, what it really is, we are really doing is stopping controlling Israel. Okay, and that may be fine, but just understand what it is that's actually happening. Okay. After the October 7th, and they went in and started attacking Hamas, Joe Biden, who says, I'm the greatest friend they've ever had. Okay, Israel, there's not an Israelite there that thinks so. But he not only embargoed the weapons, he said, we're going to stop giving you military support. We're going to stop supporting you with weapons, munitions, extra ammo. We're going to actually embargo the weapons and supporting materials for any war, like the D9 Caterpillars, which they use to take out the minefields and such that they've set. Okay, they had bought 1,000 of these, and he says he stopped it. He says, no, I'm not even going to give you the stuff we've already sold you. I'm going to withhold that. Okay. Meanwhile, we have other countries cutting off their coal, cutting off various stuff because of the propaganda war that says Israel's killing all these Palestinians, all these women and children, which they're not. But do we care about the Palestinians? There's been a great big show about how we suddenly care about the Palestinians. Okay, understand the Palestinians, that's just the name they took on themselves in 1967 at the urging of the KGB to convert from them being the Islamic countries being Goliath and Israel being David, to swap that in the eyes of the world to say, well, now Israel's Goliath and the poor little Palestinians are David, and their Goliath is killing David. Okay. It's far from the truth. It's a sideshow. What's really happening is all of the Islamic countries are trying to get them to disarm Israel so that they can finally go in and finish them off, because there is no place in any Islamic mind for a autonomous nation of Israel. That's what it's always been about, is to disarm Israel so that they can finally finish them off from the river to the sea. That's all of Israel, by the way. That's not just Gaza or the West Bank. That's river to the sea, Jordan River to the sea, is the entirety of Israel shall be free of Jews. Okay? The end will come when we have destroyed all the Jews and the trees call out to them and say, oh, Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind us, and come and kill him. That's in the Palestinian Charter. Okay. Israel's charter in their originating document said we want to be friends with all peoples of, come live with us in peace. All peoples of all countries, all nationality, ethnicities, and religions live in peace with us. And Islam said our purpose is to eliminate the Jews. Okay, certainly they cannot have a country, any country. Okay, there's no two-state solution. Okay, so we say we care about the Palestinians because all of the willing dupes in the media are portraying this as an annihilation of these poor Palestinians. Understand, the Palestinians are just Arabs. Okay, the true Palestinians that went by the name of Palestinians were the Jews. The Arabs never went by the name Palestinian until it made sense to tie them to the land. Now that we're Palestinians, Palestine. Okay, no, just Arabs, part of the whole group of 52 Arab countries and 44 Arab countries and 52 Muslim countries that are all have one goal, one united goal: the elimination and the destruction of the Jews. And then the rest of the infidels. Okay. So, how do we know that we don't care? Well, there are 22 ongoing wars around the world right now, where people, mostly in the Middle East, where they're killing tens of thousands of Arabs and Muslims by the day. Did you even know that? No, because nobody cares. Okay. In Syria, Assad killed 650,000 of his people, non-combatants, just killed them, gassed a bunch of them. What did we do? Nothing. Didn't do anything. Okay. Killed 650,000 of his people. Didn't care. Saddam Hussein, with those non-existent chemical weapons, he gassed the Kurds twice with gas that he didn't have. Did we do anything? Nope. Okay. Did we do anything about all of the people Saddam Hussein was harming in his own country for all those years? Nope. Yemen, there's been massive real famine for 10 years. There's been an ongoing civil war, real famine and destruction and death and mayhem of Muslims and Arabs. Okay. Do we care? Have you even heard of it? Nope, we don't care. Okay. You have the Uyghur Muslims, 1 million of them in China. They put nets around the building to stop them from throwing themselves off to their death rather than remain slaves of China. Do we care? Nope. So why do we not care about all of those Muslims killing everybody? Throughout the Middle East, by the way, they have been systematically eradicating every minority religion. The Christians have been fairly well eradicated from the Middle East, most countries. Okay, they used to be majority. Lebanon was majority. Not anymore. Okay, they've been eradicated, ethnically cleansed, and genocided from Libya, from Jordan, from Egypt, from all of the Middle East. Had massive amounts of Kurds and Jews and Christians and you name it. They've all been eradicated. Okay, true ethnic cleansing and genocide of all the Muslim and Arab countries in the Middle East have genocided completely and mostly completely and ethnically cleansed and genocided all of their Christians and Jews and Kurds and on and on and on. We don't care. So why do we suddenly care about the Arabs that are being killed in much smaller numbers than they say in Gaza? Because they're being killed by Jews. The only time we care when they're killed is when they're killed by Jews. When there's Jews doing it. Those evil Jews. Okay. Point is, when you say, we're not the world's policemen, and I just don't care, and the U.S. needs to stop caring and intervening and supporting, the good news is we haven't, and we don't. So, and that is, as hard as that is, that we don't care, that's not the infuriating part. The infuriating thing is that while not caring and not being the world's policeman and not protecting the rights of all these individuals and all these people that we say that we're protecting with US dollars and weapons and all these things that we're actually protecting them because we care. And when we really don't. The infuriating thing is that we pretend and we pat ourselves on the back and congratulate ourselves on caring. And we don't. So what we need to stop first is taking credit for being so caring and supporting all of the ailing people around the world. We don't. and we're not. And for all of you who don't care and don't want us to care, the good news is that we don't.